Ticked off Vic here. You know what ticks me off? Changing something that should probably be changed, but doing it because it's not politically correct when it has nothing to do with PC. Follow me. I just heard recently that Major League Baseball decided to change what they call players who are hurt and can't play. Up until recently, if a player could not play or was injured, they would put him on the disabled list, the DL. That's what DL means. It means the player is disabled and he can't play for a certain period of time. So what's the problem? Well, there really isn't any problem. I actually think it should be called the injury list because the player is injured. So I don't have a problem with that. But the fact that Major League Baseball changed the DL to the IL kind of bothers me. Apparently, it seems that calling a player disabled is some sort of slap at disabled people who are disabled all the time. So my question is, how is calling a player disabled for a short period of time a slap at a person who is disabled for a long period of time? No one is making fun of disabled people. If a player is hurt, he is disabled. Now, then again, I actually think that IL is better to call it if an injury list because the player is technically injured, but the player is technically disabled too. Here's an example, and I know it's extreme, but here it is. If a player has an injury, let's say he hit in the face with a pitch, and he is blind from it temporarily, wouldn't you say that he was disabled? And are we allowed to say he is blinded, or do we have to say he is injured and temporarily without sight? By saying he is blind, is that offensive to blind people? You see what I mean? Look, I get it. But a guy who suffers a head injury isn't called beheaded. That would be going too far. But what happens to the player who suffers a head injury and then has a disability for the rest of his life? That's disabled, right? Holy fuck! Mind-boggling. Look, there are athletes who suffer such horrible injuries that are actually disabled and have to retire from playing. That's not mocking anyone. It's just simply a fact. Isn't disabled temporarily the same as unable to play? We could call it the unable list. You can't play. You're unable to play. Why? Because you're temporarily disabled from the injury. So I get it. I agree we should call it the injury list, but I just disagree that calling it the disabled list was wrong or disrespectful to disabled people. And by the way, I personally know of a lot of people who receive disability insurance and don't work, and you can find them on the golf course and doing yard work at home. How the fuck can you play golf or do yard work and be considered disabled so you can't work and you get a check from the government every fucking week? What the fuck is going on here? Look, I'm all for the honesty and charity and kindness and helping your fellow man and being more respectful to each other. The world would be a better place if we could all do that. But changing something that should probably be changed, doing it because it's not politically correct, when it nothing to do has to do with PC, that's what ticks me off.